What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Us vs. Them YouTube channel. I'm your host, Vince, and we're going to look at the first 3 fights for the upcoming fight night this coming weekend. Before we do that, I want to review a little bit of our fights last week. We went 6 for 12 on the money line, and we went 4 for 12 on the method of victory. 6 for 12 is just not that great, and we just got it. That's not the numbers. We need to get those numbers up. We just got to get those numbers up.
Three or four times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
But the 4 for 12 ain't bad. The first fight we're going to get into is Gabriela Fernandes versus Juliana Stoliarenko. Fernandes is sitting at a minus 440 favorite, and Julia is sitting at a plus 310 underdog. I'm going to come out and say it right now. I'm already leaning towards the underdog on this one, and I know what you're thinking. I'm just going underdog hunting because we haven't been doing great on the underdog so far. That's just not the case. I didn't know the line when I was looking into these fights, and I can definitely see a clear path to victory for Julia. This fight is going to be a classic striker versus grappler fight. Fernandes has a major hole in her ground game, and Julia kind of has a little bit of hole in her striking too. Julia's a longer, rangier fighter though, which she can utilize to help her on her feet. But the hole in Fernandez' game might be insurmountable in this fight. Fernandez' power is going to help her on her feet. She's definitely the more powerful striker. If this fight goes to the decision, I can see her winning the fight just because she's going to land the harder and heavier shots. But the real issue is, can she stay on her feet to be able to do that? When you look at Stoliarenko's fight against Molly McCann, we saw her on the ground and she was transitioning really well from the armbar to the triangle and back to the armbar to the triangle. I think she did both of them twice or maybe even 3 times each. They were really, really smooth transitions. And it was, when you're watching it, it was a matter of victory that she was definitely going to get the finish there. And given Fernandez's hole in the ground, I could see Stoliarenko really capitalizing on that. When you watch Fernandez's fight against Jasmine Jasudavicius and Teresa Blata, I don't normally stumble this much over my words, by the way. These names are freaking hard. But when you watch those two fights, we saw her get put on her back, and every time she got put on her back, every single round, she stayed there. And that's very concerning for a fight when she's going to fight a high-level grappler like Julia. Julia Stoliarenko really only needs like a minute or 2 on the ground, even if she's on her back, to get a finish here in this fight. I think the gap in grappling is that big. Really, the question is, can she get her to the ground? And will she have enough time when she does get her to the ground to actually finish the fight? Find her an armbar, find her a triangle, or whatever it is. I'm really leaning towards Stoliarenko, however you say her name, to get the finish here. I think she's going to have an opportunity to lock in one of the submissions and get it done. So for my official prediction, I'm going Julia Stoliarenko by decision. The second fight we're going to look at is Medić versus Gilbert Urbina. Medić is sitting at a minus 390 favorite, and Urbina is a plus 280 underdog. I found it really hard to break down Urbina's fights just because he doesn't really fight that much. He was on the the Ultimate Fighter or Tough season in 2021 that had Brian Battle and those guys in it, and he's only fought in 2 times since then. This is only his 3rd fight since 2021, so I really don't like his inactivity. One thing that he's changed since 2021 though is he's changed weight classes. He was fighting at the middleweight division and he's bumped down to the welterweight division, and he just looks like a better athlete at that division. He looks faster, looks in better shape. I definitely think the 170-pound weight class suits Urbina a little bit better. The one thing I don't like when I watch Urbina's fights is he tends to lunge forward when he's getting ready to strike, and when he does that, he also keeps his chin up. Fighting a guy like Medić, that's going to make it really challenging for him. Medić is the type of guy that just sits there and waits for that perfectly timed shot, and he just blasts you. We saw that in Tim Means, where Tim Means lunged in, and he blasted him with an uppercut, and that was it. So, if he tries to do that against Medić, he could find a lot of trouble. I think of the 2 fighters, Medić definitely handles adversity better. When you look at Urbina's fights, when he fought Brian Battle, for instance, he went in there and kind of, bum rushed him a little bit, put a lot of offense out there, threw him to the ground. But Brian Battle weathered the storm. He worked back to his feet. He ended up winning the 2nd round, and I think he finished him in the 2nd round. You could tell that Urbina's confidence started to wear quickly when he wasn't able to get him out there really fast. We've seen Medić had quite the opposite experience in past fights. in his fight against Matthew Smellisberger. He got caught early in the fight, dropped, and I thought he was going to get finished. He ended up surviving. He ended up winning round 2, and he ended up getting the KO in round 3. So it just shows that he can handle adversity better. I think, obviously to win fights, you have to be a good hammer and you have to be a good nail. I think Medić can do both, and I think Urbina is just a really good hammer. But when he starts being the nail, he starts to wilt a little bit. Medić has never seen the scorecards, and I don't think he's going to this time. My official prediction, I'm going with Medić by knockout. I think he's going to find that nicely timed shot he could put him away right then and there, or at least get it going to where he could throw some punches and bunches and get the fight out of there. So my official prediction, I'm going Medić by knockout. The last fight we're going to get into today is Jocelyn Edwards versus Priscilla Cachoeira. Edwards is coming in at -330 favorite, and Cachoeira is sitting at a +240 underdog. One thing I can easily predict with this fight is that it's going to be a striking fight. I've watched 4 or 5 fights from Cachoeira, and I don't think she attempted a takedown one single time. She at least didn't get any takedowns, but she didn't attempt any takedowns in the 4 or 5 fight period. Jocelyn Edwards doesn't really lean on her takedowns very much as well, but she does mix in takedowns a little bit to open up her striking. We've seen in past fights where she'll throw a takedown just to keep her opponent guessing and open up maybe a high kick or open up something with her hands. I could see her mixing in that, but for sure I think this is going to be a striking battle. Cachoeira has the power advantage for sure, but I think Edwards definitely has the speed and the technical advantage. Cachoeira didn't start martial arts until later in her life, which I don't think is going to help her necessarily in this fight. I think she's going to just have just a technical disadvantage throughout the whole time. She's super, super tough, but she does tend to struggle with longer, rangier fighters. When it's a fighter shorter than her, she can kind of impose her will and then dominate, as long as they don't have a lot of grappling experience. We saw that in her last fight against Josiane Nunez, where she ended up catching her with an uppercut and knocked her out in the first round. It does show that she has very big power, but I don't know how much she's going to be able to utilize that power against Jocelyn Edwards. I broke down a fight between Jocelyn Edwards and a past opponent named Tamires Vidal, and I think Tamires Vidal fights similarly to Cachoeira. They're both a little bit shorter, more compact, power punchers who want to get on the inside and want to implement damage. I think Cachoeira is a meaner version of her and probably hits a little harder. But if you go back and watch that fight, you're going to watch Jocelyn Edwards break her down. She's going to systematically break her down with her knees, elbows, punches, kicks. They're coming from every single angle. She's extending her combinations and really implementing damage. And I can see her having a very similar fight this weekend against Cachoeira. Cachoeira also fought a fighter that's similar to Jocelyn Edwards. And although she did get the decision win, it was a very close fight. And that fight was against Ji Young Kim, who's no longer even in the UFC. Ji Young Kim she's a rangier fighter. She was trying to work her striking at a range, which we're going to see Jocelyn Edwards start to do this weekend. But she just didn't quite hit as hard as Jocelyn does. And I think that's going to be the biggest factor, the biggest difference between that fight and then Cachoeira's fight this coming weekend. I think Cachoeira's toughness is going to help her out, at least in the sense to get to the final bell. I can see this fight go. I do predict this fight to go to the decision, but for my official prediction, I'm going for Jocelyn Edwards by decision. Like I said, Cachoeira is tough. She could take damage. She's super, super durable, but I think she's going to have a striking disadvantage and a technical disadvantage in this fight. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Come back tomorrow where we'll break down 3 more fights. Obviously, on Friday, I'll give you my official parlays, and then we're going to go from there. I can see us winning some money this weekend for sure. You already got one dog barking on this video, and I can see more. So stay tuned throughout the week. We'll break down more fights, and that's all I got for you guys. Let's go, baby.